Going second in Vanguard is about to get even better. And we're not talking about the new Greedon Mask here.
Stand up! Vanguard!
Hey Cardfighters, welcome back to another Cardfight update, and today we've got a very exciting one, as not only do we see the reveal of the brand new Greedon, but we also see the reveal of the brand new Messiah, which is a Greedon elemental, by the way, that is going to change the way how we perceive going second. At least for premium, of course, because it's a premium stride card. But to make more sense of everything, let's jump straight into this card to see what these have in store for us and what they could mean for the respective decks, archetypes, or format. So let's first take a look at the new standard cards, and these are easy to digest. And we start off with a brand new grade 1 for Dark States, which is this grade 1 clunky stroller, which has the effect, although when the unit is placed on a Vanguard circle, if you have a Vanguard with Greedon in its card name, cost Soul Blast 1, choose a card with Desire Devil in its card name from your drop, put it into your soul, and this unit gets power plus 5k until the end of turn. So it's a 13k booster essentially for Greedon, because you Soul Blast 1 and then put a Desire Devil back, and in most cases you're probably going to Soul Blast a Desire Devil to put a Desire Devil back, which is kind of a bit weird. Right now I'm not too familiar with all the Desire Devils, and I know there's a specific one you want to always keep in soul. I know there's some that give your Vanguard power buffs, but you're probably going to keep those in the soul anyways. I don't know if there's other cards to interact with them being put into the soul, because most of them require your Vanguard to be, or most of them require that the Vanguard is the one that puts into soul. But who knows, maybe we get other cards that we want to keep in the soul or activate when they are put in the soul. In a generic sense, they can get more value off this card. But overall, it's essentially just a 13k B booster or beater that can be used in Greedon in general. We also have this grade 2 Desire Devil Sasho. And Sasho has the effect, continues in deck. If you have a Vanguard with Greedon in its card name, this card is also regarded as the same names as all the cards in your soul with Desire Devil in their card names. Now, this skill doesn't really make any sense in the generic sense, because no Desire Devils right now or Greedon requires a specific card to be in the soul besides Desire Devils, but there already is a Desire Devil. But this isn't the case for one particular card, which is the grade 2 of the right line, which essentially can search another copy of himself to put into the soul the moment you ride the grade 3. So you can now also choose this one, and the only reason why you potentially want to choose this is because if you play on Greedon Mask, the grade 2 of the right line doesn't do anything, because it specifically works only with the original Greedon. So if you want to get more value, you can potentially choose this as a target to search from deck, as it then potentially can get you more value later down the line. But I don't know if there's any other implication that will matter, honestly. I don't think this is good enough reason to be played for that, because you can still rely on old Greedon if you want to go that direction, thus making the grade 2 of the right line still valid. But then this also has another effect, which is continuous or Vanguard circle, Guardian circle. If your soul has 3 or more cards with Desire Devil in their cards names, this unit gets power plus 5k and shield plus 5k. This condition will basically always be met by turn 3 because of the right line, so it's essentially a 15k attacker and 10k shield, which is fine, but is it needed? I don't know, I don't think so, but who knows, maybe we get other cards that might make its first effect more applicable or more useful, but right now it feels a bit iffy. But then we get to the big one here, the new Greedon, which is Avaricious Demonic Dragon King Greedon Mask. And this Greedon has, of course, the same continuous restriction skills, all the Mask units, that it can only be written on a grade 3 with Greedon in its card name. But you can circumvent this a little bit with the Mask or the card, of course, so you can write this on turn 3 on top of the original Greedon, so you can get into this card a turn faster. But then it also has the effect, continuous Vanguard circle, the numbers of cards in your damage zone for you to lose becomes 7. So with the Mask order in mind, you can get to this 7 damage on the very first grade 3 turn, because you can get into this card on turn 3 essentially, which is great, because that means if you go second, you will increase the speed of dying at 7 by a turn, which can be very impactful, because if you go second, that means you need to survive 2 grade 3 turns on your opponent's side of the field by keeping yourself at 5 damage, which can sometimes be tricky. And with this, you can at least go to 7 damage a turn faster, which is great for survivability's sake. But then its main effects are act on Vanguard circle once per turn, cost remove a card with Greedon in its different card names from this unit from your hand, soul, or drop. Look at the top 7 cards of your deck. choose up to one Desire Devil from among them, reveal it, and put it into your hand and shuffle the deck. So this is essentially a +1 that can search for any specific Desire Devils, which is great because that means you have more consistent access to specific key pieces and certain combo pieces you want to see more consistently. So this is a great way to get to those cards a bit faster and a bit more consistent, which also opens up the deck a bit more for other non-Desire Devil cards because you can search out the cards you need and then hopefully draw into the other cards that you don't search. But then it also has the battle phase effect, auto and Vanguard Circle once per turn. At the end of battle, this unit attacked if your soul has 3 or more cards with Desire Devil in its card names, which again is very easy to fulfill because of the right line. Cause put 3 stand rearguards into the soul, stand this unit, and it gets power plus 5k until the end of turn. So this is a much cheaper restand, which allows you to still be able to attack with both your front row rearguards, so you can have rearguard pressure as well. The only trade-in you have here is that your Vanguard will most likely be a bit less powerful, as you don't have the potential of plus 15k, and you cannot loop this. So you can only restand your Vanguard once, unlike the other Greedon, which can potentially restand twice or thrice, depending on how much of a high roll you can acquire. So this feels more like a much more consistent pressure, but you remove the potential high roll of it, which, depending on what type of player you are, you don't mind and you think, you know what, this is more consistent, so I like this more because I like consistent decks overall. Now the interesting thing is that we have Bubetsu, the bunny one, that allows you to potentially call more units. Now, of course, that card can only call to open rearguard circles, so you cannot necessarily directly multi-attack with it, because the rearguards you attack are rested, so you can put them into soul with this effect. But we do have Dark States cards that can make themselves disappear. The only issue is that that requires a significant amount of specific pieces, which, of course, some of them are Desire Devils themselves, which makes it less consistent, because also you are relying on getting to Greedon Mask as fast as possible, which in itself is also requiring multiple pieces, because you also need the Mask Order, potentially the Order Searcher card, then the Mask Greedon himself. So it requires multiple things to go right in order to do that. So that might not be the most consistent play, but it does open up that possibility, because you now have your rearguard units to attack. And with the fact that this doesn't rely on having too much soul, you can also turn this deck into a more soul toolboxy deck, because we have the Grade 2 that can put things back from the drop into the soul, thus still meeting the requirements for our effects. But there is a major glaring issue with Greedon right now, at least in Greedon's Mask case, and that's the fact that most of the direct Greedon support doesn't work. Because either they are working towards the high roll potential, which this deck doesn't even have, or in the case with a lot of cards, they specifically state the original Greedon's name, which this card isn't. So they don't work. There are like a very selective few of cards that work, and a couple of them are like not worth it to even play, and some of them might be useful, but not with the card pool that we have right now. So I think Greedon Mask is a bit of underwhelming right now, but depending on what the support we're going to get in this set, that could completely change, of course, as we have hardly seen any of the cards, and this card could suddenly be very powerful from this set onwards. But we have to wait and see till we get all the other cards to understand how much consistent pressure we can do with the rearguards, and how good this more low-powered but consistent Vanguard pressure is going to be for the long run of the game plan of Greedon Mask. Now, if we go to Premium, we see a massive change with a brand new stride being introduced, which is this stride, Harmonics Messiah, which is not a Link Joker Messiah. This is a Cray Elemental Messiah, so any deck can play it, and as you're going to see in a second, any deck will play this. Because this Messiah has the effect, continues, you may only have one Harmonics Messiah G unit in your G deck. And for the second ability, we have Auto. When this unit is placed on the Vanguard Circle, choose any number of your lock cards and unlock them. Choose the same number of cards from your hand as the lock number of cards unlocked by this effect and discard them. This isn't going to be a very impactful effect, but it's a nice utility effect to have in case you are up against Link Joker and your entire board is locked, or all your front row units are locked, so you still want to have some pressure. But the more important effects are the third and fourth one. For the third effect, we have Auto Vanguard Circle and G-Zone. When this unit is placed on the Vanguard Circle, or at the beginning of your turn, if this card is face up, your damage zone has 2 or less cards, and no new cards were put into your damage zone during your opponent's preceding turn, put the top card of your deck into the damage zone and draw a card. So this is basically anti-damage tonight. And this is going to be very impactful because that means damage tonight will be less effective in certain sense, of course. And this means you'll always have a potential way to play the game. And this definitely will hurt certain decks like 0 damage Giza, for example, or 0 damage Landios, for example. But also other decks that want to mitigate the amount of value your opponent's going to have. Now, a lot of decks can do a lot with 1 damage, but at the same time, in 1 damage is still a limiting factor, so it won't be the end of the world because of the fact that damage now would be now not optional anymore. Because it still is an option, but it won't be as good. But the main thing why I don't think this is gonna be too impactful in the generic sense is that because this thing needs to be faced up in the G-zone, certain decks or certain strategies won't be able to utilize it to the fullest because some decks rely on strides that do not flip. So you're not able to get this thing face up. Other decks do have cards that flip, but you probably want to flip a specific card. I'm not talking about cards that specifically need to flip a copy of themselves. I'm talking about things like Slishma, for example. His teammate and player doesn't probably want to flip this with the Slishma turn. They probably want to flip Slishma to extend their attacks. So this won't be a effect that will be activated during every game, but certain decks can utilize this in order to mitigate damage and eye tactics. But the reason why I think this is going to be the go-to stride for any deck out there is because of this ladder effect, which is auto from G-Zone. When your grade 1 unit is placed by riding from a grade 0, if you went second, reveal this card, not flip, just reveal it and it goes face down. Put a Guardian Shield ticket into your hand. A Guardian Shield ticket is the exact same thing as a Quick Shield ticket, but it's plus 20k power, not plus 5. So now, in Premium, if you go second and you use the V starters, you not only get a Shield ticket, but you also get a Guardian Shield ticket. So you get 2 cards in hand, which are 2 Blitz Order tickets. One gives 5k, one gets 20k. That is honestly pretty damn good for going second. Now, will this mitigate the power potential of going first decks, especially with History Collection on the horizon with these new strides? I don't know if it's good enough, but in the very least, it's nice to have this, and it can help you to mitigate early game pressure so you can stay at low damage easier and then go into the late game where it's probably going to be hard to guard everything and you can take all the damage. But I'm not too sure how impactful it will be. We have to wait and see till we see the actual impact of the new going first strides and as well the impact of Harmonics Messiah for the going second players. Now, as a final update to History Collection, they also revealed they're going to errata the resource heals as well. Their effects going to be the exact same, but they're going to have the new trigger and shield power. So they're going to be 10k triggers with 50k shield, which is great because now that opens up the possibility of using these resource heals as well. Will it be go-to options for most decks? I don't think so because Hue Guardians are still a thing. That's going to be very impactful, but certain decks might consider like running a different ratio of using the Hue Guardians and these resource heals, especially decks that can utilize the extra soul and counter charge. And that's basically everything that we've got today. Overall, quite interesting reveals, especially on the premium side with the new Guardian Shield ticket, which can definitely be an impactful strategy for improving going second in the face of the new History Collection strides. And then, of course, new Greedon is a very interesting card that has me wondering of what direction they want to take the Greedon deck with, as since the original support is very xenophobic to some extent to the original Greedon, but I'm kind of interested of what the whole collection of set 11 is going to bring to Dark States that might shift things in a different direction that could make the deck very interesting. But that's basically my thoughts on these cards. Let me know in the comment section down below what you guys think of these new cards, as maybe you see a specific interaction that can make Greedon Mask very powerful, or maybe you can see what type, or you have a better understanding of how much impact the Guardian Shield ticket is going to have for going second players, as there are a lot of implications to these type of effects, and I'm very curious of what you guys' thoughts are on these cards in the comment section down below. As always, this video has been brought to you by our lovely Patreon over at patreon.com/VanguardInsider. You guys are amazing. If you want to support the channel or everything that's happening on the channel, you can simply go to patreon.com/VanguardInsider and become a patron today. But with that said, I've been Mr. Time Leap, and I see you guys in the next one!